This episode of Techno Buffalo is brought to you by Netflix. Go to www.netflix.com/buffalo for your free trial membership today. Ding!
What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with a full review for you of the Samsung Galaxy S 4G. It is the newest member of the Galaxy S line of phones, and this one's got an extra G for all of you T-Mobile fans out there. So let me run through the specs very quickly, and then we'll get into all the review goodness. So it's got a 4-inch Super AMOLED screen with a resolution of 480 by 800. It's being powered by Android 2.2 with Samsung's own TouchWiz. Plenty more on that coming up. On the back, it's got a 5 megapixel camera with autofocus, which can shoot video at 1280 by 720, so that's 720p for all you folks keeping track at home, at 30 frames per second. For its Wi-Fi-ness, it's got 802.11b GNN, all being powered by a 1 gigahertz, very familiar now, Hummingbird processor. Battery's been upped a little bit to 1,650 milliamp hours. So all those specs are great. The phone does quite a lot, but browser and all the rest of that stuff we're going to talk about are of no use if the thing can't make phone calls. So let's first talk about call quality. I do a 20 call test, sort of test the phone acumen of these devices. I do it in various areas throughout my community, places where I know cell signal is degraded, to get a sense of how it sounds and whether or not we have any dropped calls. Now certainly it's going to vary depending on where you are and the signal strength. Where I am right now, I generally get about 2 to 4 bars of T-Mobile 4G service. You can see right now it is showing 2 bars up there. Call quality is outstanding on the Galaxy S 4G. It was crystal clear. People had no problem hearing me at all. They couldn't even tell I was on a cell phone. I did test the Wi-Fi calling as well, and that worked just as nicely. There wasn't any popping or white noise. I did, however, experience a few dropped calls on the device. Speakerphone is just average, so if you rely on speakerphone while you're in a car or in a meeting, if you're in a loud boardroom, you might want to look to a Bluetooth headset. I found that to be a little bit disappointing. It was able to bring in a pretty strong signal strength. Whenever 4G wasn't present, it dropped back down to about 5 bars of 3G, which has been just about on par with other T-Mobile devices. So the radio in here seems to be just as strong as the other phones. And again, certainly that's going to vary depending on where you are. Okay, so now let's get to the fun stuff and the phone review. And let's start with the skin that is sitting on top of Android 2.2, not Android 2.3, Gingerbread. This is a scoop of Froyo. So I've talked in the past about not being the biggest fan of TouchWiz, and that still holds true, but Samsung has made some improvements that have addressed some of my concerns. So one of the improvements and things actually that I'm starting to like about TouchWiz, and this is very familiar for you guys that have used an HTC device, if you sort of do that, you can get access now to your home screens, and further, you can now rearrange them, which certainly puts it on par with other skins that we've seen in the past. I do like the addition to TouchWiz. Pull down the tray here, you get shortcuts for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, silent, so you can change your profile, silent and vibrate, and auto rotation. I can understand why more manufacturers in stock Android don't do that. Make it really easy to change your profiles. If you're like me and you're in a lot of meetings, or you don't want your phone to ring or keep it quiet, it's really nice to sort of have that setting. Certainly you can add a widget that'll do it to the home screen, but it's very nice to have it on every screen you are just by pulling down the tray. The applications here are the same as we've seen on other TouchWiz devices. It's sort of laid out in this icon with the horizontal scrolling. I don't like that. I don't like that each one is sort of encapsulated into its square, but I do understand that that is just personal preference. One of the nice things about Android, however, is if you don't like TouchWiz and you don't like the way the launcher works here, you can go ahead and put on your own launcher. I just did a clean restore of the device, but when I was testing it, I was using Launcher Pro, which completely redesigns and redoes how it looks. So that is definitely one of the positives of Android. The web browser here is pretty standard, what you'd expect from an Android web browser. go ahead and take a look. All your pinch to zoom functionality is there. It works pretty quickly. There wasn't much of a lag. Scrolling, I didn't get any of that checkerboard pattern. The Hummingbird processor definitely keeps up with what you need to do. Flash was not so watchable. It was definitely a bit stuttery. I'd probably recommend, unless you need it for a particular reason, turning Flash off, not only because it's not the most usable, it's also going to be a big battery drain. So the screen here is Super AMOLED, which means it's absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous screen. But it still is first generation of Super AMOLED, and as we've seen with other Samsung Galaxy S devices, there is a bit of a tint to the screen. And it's a little bit of a bluish gray tint. And it's nothing that certainly you can't get by, and if you don't look at it next to another device, you don't notice it. But if you pull in something that doesn't have that tint, here's an iPhone 4, it becomes a little bit more apparent. Now, I got very used to it, and I'm willing to sacrifice that tint to have the outstanding visibility in direct sunlight, the really dark blacks, and the very rich and beautiful colors. So Super AMOLED for me is a huge, huge, huge addition. But if you think you might be bothered by that little tint, definitely go and check it out in stores. You can look at any of the Galaxy S devices. They all have the same screen. Let's go ahead and hit home here. One sort of issue that I had with the Galaxy S devices, and some have them and some don't, if we flip this guy on its rear end, no flash. And that seems to be a really common feature now on pretty much every smartphone. There's some sort of LED flash, but we don't have that here on the Galaxy S4G. And while we have this thing turned over and we're looking at its butt end, let's talk about this back. It looks like there's some texture on there with that gray, but that is just an illusion. It is completely hard plastic. That's one of the issues that I had with the phone. The build quality doesn't feel that, well, let's just say high quality. It's got a nice feel to it. It's got a nice look. It feels a little bit flimsy though. So when I say nice feel, it's solidly, it feels solid. But you can definitely get the sense that if you drop the phone, the back is completely going to fall off. From a design standpoint, it's going to come down to personal preference, what you like. It's got sort of that chrome ring around it, which looks very reminiscent of another device that we've seen. These two definitely look like they are distant cousins. iPhone 3GS right here. Let's go ahead and push that off. All in all, the package comes together very nicely, and things work as you'd expect from a modern Android device. Being a 4G phone, I was very impressed with the download speeds from T-Mobile's HSPA Plus network. Certainly I got nowhere near the 21 Plus that they advertised, but I was definitely getting about 3 to 4, sometimes I got 5 or 6 speeds on the down, that's megabits per second. And on the up, as you can see right here, it was very strong on the up, pulling in sometimes even as fast as 3 megabits per second up. So if you need to use this for hotspot capabilities, you're going to be very, very nicely set. Go ahead and hit home. I haven't always been the biggest fan of capacitive buttons. Sometimes I find them unresponsive. Very good here on the Galaxy S 4G. Camera quality is fine. It looks about as you'd expect. The VGA resolution front camera works just about as you'd expect the VGA front camera to work. And it does use the Quick software for video chat. So all in all, if you're in the market for a pretty capable, pretty robust Android smartphone and you're on T-Mobile and you want to make sure it can do 4G, this is going to be a very, very good option. And for those of you folks that may have a Vibrant, which was the previous, I suppose, generation version of the Galaxy S on T-Mobile, this definitely represents a nice upgrade, not just for the battery, but for the additions to TouchWiz and those 4G speeds. So on a 1 to 5 scale, it gets a very, very solid, actually 4.5. However, there is a new generation of smartphones coming out very quickly that are going to be using a dual-core processor chipset and are going to have improved amount of RAM. So while this is a very capable phone for now, I'll certainly serve you throughout the course of your 2-year contract. If you're in the market for a phone right now, you may want to wait for another 2 to 3 months to see what's coming down the pipeline. Anyway guys, I am John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and this has been a review of the Samsung Galaxy S 4G. I want to thank our friends at Netflix for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out netflix.com/buffalo for your free trial membership and sign up using that link to let them know that we sent you. I've been reading the comments on the Console Wars series, and I know you guys have an Xbox, a PS3, or a Wii downstairs or upstairs on your television. You could stream a ton of really awesome movie and TV shows right to your TV from your game console with Netflix. So be sure to check them out and let them know that John sent you.